Well, we tried to find one of Jersey's best lawyers to come into to join this discussion, but we did find the best lawyer on employment law because the Jersey lawyers seem very reluctant to speak on these sorts of things, and obviously there are lots of legal implications about what's going on here. What do you make of it, Nick? What you've heard? Have these people got a contract or not?
I've looked at the contract. It really doesn't fit the bill for what the employer intended. There seems to be some misinformation, let's say, to the employee about how long they're going to be working, how many hours they're going to be working, when they're going to have days off. I understand from the first probably month, possibly 6 weeks, they were not given days off, so they worked every day without a break. And it was only when one of them gathered a bit of courage to say, "Please sir, could I have a break?" they were given one, and others then subsequently had breaks, and it's now transformed into a general Sunday is the 24 hours when they don't have to work. Some of these workers were working like 80 hours per week. That's like a 14-hour day for 6 days a week. That's tough, and as we know, agricultural work's pretty hard. Not just sitting bored in an office.
And it's not always a sunny day like today, is it?
No, I imagine, but it rains and sometimes it's cold.
Absolutely.
Back to the actual, there are issues here which need to be addressed by the government and as a general policy about how they're going to bring in labour and to avoid exploitation, because that's what it looks like here. And certainly for the future, there's going to have to be government regulation as to wages, terms and conditions. It's an issue for islanders as well and for trade unions, because it will affect them if it makes effectively the agricultural sector a no-go area, because all work is going to be conducted at minimum wage. And we know that in other sectors of the Jersey economy, in hospitality, wages are actually rising because of labour shortages. Employers are being forced to pay more. Now, if there's these sort of workers coming in and working in hospitality, and there is a route for them to be employed in hospitality, are they going to be working at minimum wage? They're supposed to be paid the going rate, but we'll probably find that the employer pays no more than the minimum wage, doesn't pay them the living wage, and certainly won't reflect the increases which workers have achieved through bargaining themselves in a employee situation to their advantage.
I think it's a point of shame with the Jersey public that they're obsessed with this population. Anybody who comes in from outside and anybody who's doing a menial job, a lowly job, labouring type job, they see them as totally disposable. They don't see them as worthy of being properly housed, properly looked after.
What we've got here is the government, which is a government of employers, and it's providing labour to a sector of employers who desperately need employees in the agricultural sector. They can't recruit them locally because of the low pay, so they bring them in and they come here for a short period and then are supposed to disappear. Government's being indulgent to that kind of exploitation. You've heard some details about what it costs for a worker to get here from Russia, how much they've got to pay for their flights, for visas and so on, and they get a bum deal if they're only here for a very short period. They were misinformed about the length of time they were going to be here. They thought it was going to be 9 months. In fact, it only was the very short period from April through to about now, the end of
At a legal level, what's the legality of giving somebody a contract in a language he doesn't speak or read? I mean, they don't get the contract till they arrive here. They've already spent £1,000 by the time they get here of their own money. They've spent £1,000 and then they say, well, here's your contract,
well, funny,
and they can't read it.
Funny you should say that, because invariably there's a section in the employee's handbook that says you've had an opportunity to have this translated. And the tribunal invariably says, oh, well, we'll look at this particular section. So, well, you obviously had it translated so you fully understand all its contents.
Exactly.
It's not the case at all.
Completely untrue.
Absolutely.
That's right. Have you read the handbook? Have you read the terms of contract?
I'm not sure whether these particular workers have ever had the handbook. I mean,
No.
it is referred to in their contract of employment, but they probably haven't been advised what it is or what it contains.
And this apparent difference between the Jersey Farmers Union, there seems to be, they seem to operate their policy, which was, it used to be years ago, the Jersey Farmers Union used to set the rates for agriculture workers. They used to set the rates with the farmers. That doesn't seem to happen anymore. These farmers, like these two big employers, have drifted off on their own, and they set the standard for themselves.
Well, I think you've got to the nub of the issue as to what is the government of Jersey doing. Why didn't it revive its history? Why didn't it look at the way it dealt with Labour previously before Britain joined the European Union to see, and they could have expected all these kind of issues, and sure enough here they are, all occurring again. They've got to be dealt with pretty quickly for the next season, and it's got to be made transparent for the Jersey public so that they know what's happening. And also those workers who come must be properly informed as to what their rights are, what's the basis on which
Have we got any idea what's happening in the United Kingdom? Because obviously the United Kingdom has got one level of immigration control, but Jersey's got two levels. We've got the immigration control from the UK, which applies here, Priti Patel and all her horrible endorsements. They've got to comply with that, but then they've got whatever work permit schemes they dream up here to comply
I
with.
think, again, we need the government of Jersey to start explaining what kind of protocols they've got in place. What sort of deals have they cut with the United Kingdom, since they're subject to, it's all the common travel area. That needs to be explained, but obviously governments don't like explaining these things. Their function is simply to provide labour to employers. But we as citizens should be told as to what's going on.
Well, certainly the Reform Party should be onto it, shouldn't it?
I'm sure they will be. I'm sure they will be, because they always take an interest in social justice and the exploitation of workers.
Right. We will stop there before I bite my tongue off.